He had just done this miracle. So here we are in verse 11. And Jesus is deciding to go into another city. He is on his way into another city. So here is Jesus in verse 11. He is walking to the city called Nain. In verse 11, he is walking to the city called Nain. And as he is walking, I want you to envision, as Jesus is walking, he has this huge crowd with him. And they're walking into, as you will see, they're walking into the city gates. They're walking into the city gates, and the city is called Nain. And so he has this great crowd with him. On this day, everybody in Jesus's entourage is excited. It's good to be in Jesus's entourage. It's good to be in Jesus's fellowship. And so everybody's happy, but they're on their way. They're moving into the city. A few days earlier, a certain woman received some bad news that a few days before Jesus was entering into Nain, there was a woman in the city of Nain. Jesus was not there yet, but in the city of Nain, she received some bad news. And the news that she received was, your son, your only son, is dead. A few days before Jesus and his entourage came, she received word, your son has passed away. And so funeral arrangements are now in the process. The Bible says in verse 11, and it came to pass the day after that he went into the city called Nain. And many of his disciples went with him, and much people. The Bible says in verse 12, now when he came close to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and much people of the city was with her. Here is this woman, and she's already lost her husband. And in this day and time, what we're reading, you depended on the man to support you. There wasn't a lot of job opportunities for women at this time. And so we've already had to deal with the pain of losing my man, my right arm, my strength. And I had a child by this man. And so my family had to deal with that absence, but we're going to make it, because now I'm leaning on my son, and her son is, when you only have one more person left in the family, you become closer when one is gone. And so she depends on her man-child for protection. She depends on her man-child to go into the city gates and speak for her. She can't go downtown and speak for herself. She's going to need another man to go with her. And then she receives news that the last man left in my life is gone. I've loved two men in this world, and they're both dead. So now, in the preparations for the funeral, you have to find the appropriate dress. I can imagine her that morning as Jesus was making his way in. I can imagine her this morning having her clothes laid out, having her son laid out and dressed for burial. And here she is, in mourning, in pain. The funeral is today, but what am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to deal tomorrow? They're sending cards and they're sending take care requests to me, and I'm trying to get over, but I'm wondering, what's tomorrow going to look like? I got a lot of people around me that's loving me for the hour, but what happens when I'm in that night hour? And I got to deal with the men in my life that are gone. And here I am, a widow with all my, I've outlived my husband and all my children. So here she is, her only son, in her apparel. The Bible says in verse 12 that much people are with her. And they have her son in the front of the procession. And you know how difficult it is to go to a funeral. You know how hard it is to be able to comfort somebody who just, there are no words you can say. There's really nothing you can do to take away the pain for the moment. It's just something a lot of people just have to deal with. And so she has much of the city supporting her in this funeral. And so she gets in line, and her son, who is stretched out in front of her, as they're on their way outside of the city to the graveyard. And everybody's telling her, listen, it's going to be okay, and patting her on the back. And she's making her way out of the city. What in the world am I going to do tomorrow? And how can I live on? How am I going to make it? This is a very difficult day. But I'm on my way out. I'm on my way out of the city, and much people are supporting me and my family in the loss of my son. I got up this morning thinking I was gonna bury my dreams. They told me I was too old to go back to school. They said that I could never regain what I have lost. I've made some bad decisions in my life. And some people just put an X on me and said I was done. And so what I was going to do is I was just going to bury my dreams. I was going to bury all my dreams, and I was just going to suffer for the rest of my life. And I never thought that I could just be real close to Jesus. I never thought I could be excited about coming to church. I never thought I could sing with all my heart. I never thought I could really get out of depression. I just thought something was wrong with me. Something was weird about me. I thought I had some problem or some medical problem that nobody in the world had. It's just something I was dealing with. I thought this sin just had me, and it was just something, any hope of living righteous. I thought I was just going to have to go out and bury it and just live with my shame. I never thought I could get over my sin. Now, sometimes you have dream killers. You have people that tell you you will not be any more than what you are. And sometimes when you look at your life, sometimes people look and they say, well, I guess this is the best that it's going to be. And sometimes we lose hope. And some of us are right in that recessional. We're on our way out of the gate, and we're going to bury what was once living. And so here she is, walking behind her son, on her way to the graveyard. But there's another crowd that's coming toward her. She's not paying attention. I got something to do. I'm on my way to bury. It's over now. I'm just going to have to be alone. And I'll be lonely for the rest of my life. I'll never find somebody to truly love me. I'll never find another family that will embrace me. This is something I'm just going to have to deal with. And so she's on her way out, but there's somebody on their way in. She's on her way out, but there's somebody on their way in. And the Bible says in verse 13, and when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said, weep not.